Hello and welcome to a new edition of Africa Today, and we start with the Finance Ministry as it called for a unified African vision on financing and climate change issues. It called for the establishment of joint hedge funds to protect African economies from global challenges. More in the following report.
The Ministry of Finance called on African counterparts to adopt a unified African vision on issues of financing and climate change by holding a number of joint preparatory meetings in the coming period in preparation for Egypt's hosting of the UN Conference of Parties on Climate Change, COP27. During his meeting with Vera Songwe, Under-Secretary General of the UN and Executive Secretary of the UN Economic Commission for Africa, Maït affirmed his keenness to enhance cooperation between the two sides in a way that helps in the successful hosting of the COP27 that will be held in Sharm el-Sheikh this November. He noted that a number of initiatives were discussed to be presented at the conference to achieve the aspirations of African countries in the field of providing the necessary funding sources for the phenomenon of climate change. He also reviewed the negative effects of the coronavirus pandemic and the Russian-Ukrainian conflict on African economies, including the rise in oil prices and food commodities, especially wheat. He said it is important to reach mechanisms to protect African countries and economies from such global challenges, including discussing the establishment of joint hedge funds. For her part, Songwe invited Maït to participate in the meetings of African finance ministers in Dakar next May, as a step towards preparing for the meetings that Egypt will host during the coming period to unify the visions of African countries on financing and climate change issues. Furthermore, the two sides discussed the project submitted by the Economic Commission for Africa to establish a liquidity and sustainability facility which would contribute to alleviating the burdens of African countries borrowing from international financial markets. Additionally, they discussed African preparations for the spring meetings of the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund, where the importance of African coordination to defend the interests of the continent was emphasized.
And we are joined over the phone by Dr. Mustafa Tamam, Professor of Economics and Political Science. Good afternoon, Dr. Mustafa.
Good afternoon to you.
So, Dr. Mustafa, how do you weigh the call by the Ministry of Finance to adopt a unified African vision on issues of financing and climate change?
Certainly, this initiative by the Minister of Finance is quite important, because as we know, a lot of African continents, countries have faced a lot of financial problems, you see. So this has a negative impact on investment and also on the climate change itself, because it will prevent potential investors from coming to invest in the African continent, which is rich with a lot of potential opportunities in various fields. So certainly this initiative is very important to eliminate any obstacles which might face investors or even local investors in the African continent in this respect.
And in your opinion, what points do you expect will unify African states with regards to climate change?
Certainly, this is very important, because the issue of climate change is a crucial element now, and probably a lot of countries are giving importance. It has been neglected since a long time, but at present, a lot of countries are giving great importance to this issue, because it could be very, very dangerous and could affect a lot of countries on a negative impact.
Yes. So, sir, funding sources are being discussed. What bodies do you expect to be encouraged into funding schemes to protect Africa from the repercussions of climate change?
Certainly, international organizations like the IMF and the World Bank certainly could elaborate in this respect. Also, probably large financial institutions could allocate certain sums of money in order to handle this issue, because it's quite important, you see. So certainly it's the whole community. It's not only probably a certain sector which is responsible for financing. the whole community, probably international organizations, financial institutions, and maybe companies, large companies like oil companies,
Yes.
which are have a lot of money. You see, they can afford handling these issues. So certainly, these are probably the avenues that we could finance this project.
So, sir, what mechanisms are needed to protect the African countries and economies from global challenges such as the coronavirus pandemic and conflicts?
Certainly, unfortunately, the worldwide community didn't give a lot of importance to combating the virus. So certainly, I think that encouraging these countries to manufacture the medicine in order to combat this virus is very important. This is what we did here in Egypt. You see, we started manufacturing certain medicine in order to combat the virus. This will enable us not to depend on foreign resources in order to receive the vaccines that will combat this virus.
So, sir, how would hedge funds as proposed by the Finance Ministry aid Africa path to prepare against global challenges?
Certainly, there should be. I suppose that it's very important to have a steering committee between several countries in order to set up an action plan and follow up the implementation of this plan and eliminating any obstacles that might be encountering this project. This is very, very important in order to achieve success.
And sir, with great potentials, why is not Africa turning into the world's food basket?
Certainly, this is a very important question you have raised now. Probably the next step will be encouraging the African countries to invest in food production, because Africa has a high potential. I'll give you an example. Sudan, for example, has a lot of cultivable land, but no one probably gives an importance in order to invest in agriculture in Sudan.
Yes.
Sudan, as an example, could give us a supply to the whole Middle East area for all food supplies. So probably such initiatives should be taken into consideration and encouraging these countries in order to proceed.
Yes, sir, how can we enhance intra-African trade in the coming period in order to make African countries cooperate to face global challenges like the economic crisis that is prevailing now in different world countries?
Certainly, the first step will be eliminating any obstacles that might encounter any investor who should think of doing business there in Africa.
Yes.
Another issue is the training and having the right human resources in order to elevate the economy. Because without having adequate human resources, you'll not be able to reach any results.
Yes, sir. Also, as Egypt is preparing to host the COP27 in November in the Red Sea resort city of Sharm el-Sheikh, how can how can Africa benefit from Egypt's hosting the COP27 and climate change issues that are going to be discussed in this summit can tackle problems facing Africa in the field of climate change?
Certainly, as we mentioned, it's very important to have a cooperation between all countries and to have clear objectives and an action plan in order that we reach what we want.
Yes.
Certainly, it will take some time because certain African countries, they face challenges. So eliminating any obstacles is very, very important.
Yes. Also, sir, if we talk about Africa and Egypt is considered to be the gate to Africa. How can Egypt help in attracting more investors to the African countries via Egypt?
Certainly, Egypt is a model, you see, which could be taken into consideration in order to apply in other countries.
Yes.
We have been successful in a lot of combating the virus. And handling a lot of climate changes, probably by certain programs which have been initiated by the government. So probably we could share with our expertise in providing our expertise to these African countries in order to apply the program.
Yes. Finally, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Mustafa Tamam, Professor of Economics and Political Science. Thank you, sir, for being with us. And back to our program, and we go to Congo, where President of the Democratic Republic of Congo signed the East African Community Treaty in a ceremony marking the formal admission of his country into the trading bloc. More in the following report.
Heads of state from the East African Community EAC bloc attended a ceremony marking the signing of the admission treaty by Congo at State House. The official Nairobi residence of the President of Kenya announced the news. Chairman of the bloc, Kenyan President Uhuru Kenyatta, welcomed the country to the bloc's customs union and common market and emphasized the need to ease business ties across borders. Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi said the move would help consolidate the exploitation of economic assets of respective countries and would boost opportunities for their populations. Also present were Ugandan and Rwandan presidents Yoweri Museveni and Paul Kagame. The Democratic Republic of the Congo becomes the 7th nation to join the East African Community.
As for the latest news of COVID-19 and the cases in Africa, the number of confirmed COVID-19 cases surpassed 11.36 million, with a death toll over 251,000. Details in this report.
The number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in Africa surpassed 11.36 million, with a death toll of 251,551 as of Sunday evening. The numbers were provided by the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The Specialized Healthcare Agency of the African Union, AU, said 10,725,904 patients have recovered from the disease so far. South Africa, Morocco, Tunisia, Egypt and Libya are among the countries with the most cases on the continent. South Africa has recorded the highest COVID-19 cases in Africa with 3,731,247 cases, followed by Morocco with 1,163,962 cases as of Sunday evening. In terms of the caseloads, Southern Africa is the most affected region, followed by the northern and the eastern parts of the continent, while Central Africa is the least affected region, according to the Africa CDC.
Well, dear viewers, that's all for Africa Today. I'm Shina Adel. Thank you for watching.